In today's episode of Hey, Have You Seen That Film? We're reaching back to the year 1997, the fall of 1997, when the film In and Out came out, starring two of my personal favorites, Kevin Kline and Tom Selleck, and the very talented Joan Cusack, and a host of many other talented people, such as Bob Newhart, Debbie Reynolds. The story is based off of a real idea. When Tom Hanks won his Oscar for playing the character in Philadelphia, he got up there and he thanked his high school drama coach and one of his fellow classmates. And what he said is they were two of the finest gay men he knew. Well, the writers of this film took that idea and expanded it. What would happen to the teacher that was broadcasted over at the Oscars that he was gay? And in this story, the teacher is actually engaged. The teacher's Kevin Kline, and he's engaged to Joan Cusack, and one of his students is up for the Oscar. Now the Oscars come, they're from a small town, everyone's excited, everyone's watching the Oscars because one of their fellow Greenleafians is nominated for an Oscar for playing a gay character in a film. And once he gets his acceptance speech, because he wins, he thanks his high school teacher for all that he's done and says that he's gay, which not only shocks the whole town, but it shocks his teacher, Kevin Kline himself. And so suddenly the whole town is in a bit of a whirl, a frizzy, because this man's supposed to be getting married in 3 days, and suddenly they're being told that he's gay, and some of his students are now around him. He's got his fiance who's like, is this true? His parents, even the principal, who's played by Bob Newhart, it's very homophobic. And the day following the Oscars, of course, a lot of newscasters are there to catch the scoop on Cameron Drake's gay teacher. And the whole movie, he's denying this, and then there's a reporter played by Tom Selleck who stays even longer because he wants to get the full story and catch the scoop on Howard Brackett, that is the name of Kevin Kline's character, and Howard's wedding. And so throughout the film, Kevin in different ways is trying to prove that he's a man. And at one point he has a discussion with Tom Selleck's character where Tom Selleck comes out and tells him, I'm gay. And which, in my opinion, is one of the best aspects and funny aspects of this movie, because I think that it shows that it doesn't matter who you are. Anyone can be gay. Because it's Tom Selleck. In the 80s, he was a sign of macho manliness, and in the 90s that's not how gay people were depicted. And so the fact that they got Tom Selleck to play this character, I thought was a smart move on the director and the casting side of the film. Anyways, Tom Selleck kisses Kevin Kline on the side of the road there, and it's one of the more notable scenes in the film, or memorable scenes, because you're kind of like, whoa. And it's this long kiss, and you can tell that Kevin Kline's enjoying it a little bit, but then he runs home, and when he's home, this is one of my favorite scenes in the movie. Probably my favorite scene in the movie is he has these cassette tapes that he plays, and it's how to be a man and expressing your masculinity and discovering it. And the tape has a bunch of different tests, you gotta untuck your shirt, and you gotta say these manly things, and men don't dance. And there's this whole scene where they play this song, and it's like, to prove that you're a man, you don't dance. And of course, Kevin Kline breaks out and dance, and it's really funny. But without giving too much of it away, there is conflict that arises at his wedding, and he comes out as gay at his wedding, Howard does, and which in the end he gets essentially kicked out of being a teacher, and he was up for Teacher of the Year, and they're like, nope, not happening anymore, and basically a lot of the town is very much against him, and so it's kind of this whole, what am I gonna do? And a lot of people feel conflicted about the whole thing. And that's where I'll end it. I don't want to go too much further. I already gave the spoiler that he comes out gay at his wedding. But the message of the story is really good. It's about accepting everyone for who they are, no matter who they are or what they choose to do with themselves. Which I think is it's one of my favorite messages, because I think it's something that we need to learn to respect about each other, is that it doesn't matter who we are or what we decide to do with our lives. Like, we need to respect one another. And I think this film did great with that message. And I like that this film, it was the 90s, and typically if there was a gay character in the film in the 90s, they were either the sidekick or they weren't the main character. And, typically they had the lisp and they liked shopping, and they very much fell into those gay stereotypes. And this film addresses some of those, in the sense that there's a scene where Howard's talking with his students, and he's like, no, I'm not gay, and how could he get that? And they're like, oh, well, you are a poetry teacher and you like that kind of stuff, and sometimes you can be a little prissy, and for some reason one of the jokes about the whole movie is that if a man loves Barbra Streisand, he's gay. I don't understand that one as much. So they do address some of the stereotypes, and they do it in more of a funny manner. But I like that the main character the main character was the one that was going through this. It wasn't the sidekick, it wasn't the best friend or whatever. It was the main character who had to deal through this, which for the 90s was a big deal. So the movie is funny. I will say that. I loved the performances, and all these were great. Joan Cusack was nominated for an Oscar for her role. Kevin Kline was nominated for a Golden Globe. I think Tom Selleck should have been nominated. I thought it was very different to see Tom Selleck in this kind of role. And I think he should have received more praise than he did, because he nailed the role. I thought he was great. He was very comfortable with his sexuality and wasn't afraid to talk about it with people, and that was great. I've seen some critiques of the film saying that the fact that Kevin Kline was the one in the end, he fit all these stereotypes that people believed gay people to be, and then he came out. A lot of people thought that was kind of where the film fell weak. And one person pointed out, we already had Tom Selleck, who was breaking the stereotypes for gay people, that we didn't, Kevin Kline's character didn't need to come out that way. I feel like that it helped with the message that we need to accept one another for who we are. But I can see where people are coming from with that standpoint. I already mentioned some of the more notable scenes of the film. Tom Selleck and Kevin Kline's kiss, Kevin Kline's dance. I thought that I think the film did good for the era that it was made in. It did great with exploring this topic when it wasn't that explored or not that accepted at the time. Now it's definitely a lot more about, there's a lot more out there about the LGBTQ plus community, and you see a lot more in mainstream films, and we're getting characters based on it in shows. But at the time, this is kind of one of the big first mainstream films to have this. The film was a box office hit. It had a budget of $35 million and grossed over $63 million. I I recommend it. I think, as I said, it has a great message. It's funny, and it's a feel-good movie. You know, in the end, you feel better about yourself, and you're like, yeah, like and you kind of like, maybe I need to be better about accepting people, because I think we all do. But if you haven't seen already, I mean, you can even just YouTube the scene. I recommend watching the whole movie, but YouTube the Kevin Kline dance scene. It's funny. So check out the movie, and you'll laugh. Maybe you won't, but I think you will. So check it out, and I hope you sure do enjoy it. Take care.